What's up, breathing people? This is episode number 34, Shack of Just Breathing with Laud Lungs, joined by my wife, Brittany. And we're in for a good conversation. What it will be about, well, you will find out, as will I. And it's going to be a good night. Thank you for joining us for Just Breathing with Laud Lungs. We have Just Breathing Home Edition that comes out on Mondays, so join us for that one as well. But for this one, stick around and, hope you enjoy it. Hit that subscribe button. Make sure you do that and like it. Just get that out of the way now. That way, if you're on YouTube, just do the things just because, okay? I say that, but I don't do that on most videos I watch.
Yeah.
Although there is like a quality thing to a video. There are some videos that I watch and I'm like, you deserve this.
Oh, that's nice.
Like it is something that is rare, and I understand it's rare, and that's why so many YouTubers are like so incessant on hit that like button, smash it, and they say it over and over because it actually does.
It does help
people to be
along.
Like, okay, I'll do it. Yeah. Because you asked. Yeah. It does help, but there are some videos that are just so good that you're like, you deserve this.
I wonder why that, like, what that is. I know there's a lot of things that go into it, but like, for me, like, I don't notice those things as well. Maybe of like the quality of it, because I don't know how much goes into it.
Well, I don't even mean like the quality of the video, like the.
You just mean the content?
I mean the content.
Oh, okay.
The quality of the content, like what someone said, or the sketch that was on there, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just like, that was good.
Yeah.
That was good. Like, and I know that a like gets it out to more people. And that's what I think about when I like.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I guess it helps me to a certain extent, because like I'll like something and then it tells the algorithm, like, give him more of this
sort of thing. Yeah.
And there's sometimes where I'm like, I don't really want more of this.
Yeah.
Like, I liked it for that. I don't want this in my feed.
Yeah.
Like it was a one and done type thing.
Yeah.
I'll avoid liking those types of things unless they're so good.
Yeah.
And then I'll give it to them.
Yeah.
So give it to us. Give us the thumbs up. Yeah. So how you been?
Good. Doing good. I got more done today than I usually, or at least than I got done yesterday. So it's a good day.
Days really go in waves in a house full of kids.
That's true.
It's literally, you can be so productive one day, and then the next day, a full moon is coming.
Oh.
Full moon is coming. I actually think it comes out today, the day that this podcast is releasing.
Okay.
I think it comes out today that there's going to be a full moon. So watch out. If you're listening to this podcast, watch out. It's coming for you. Yesterday was the day that our kids felt the full moon, I guess, because it was just a cry fest.
Yeah, I didn't really get anything done that day.
Nothing.
Yeah, I was just like...
I was laughing. It was so ridiculous. Like, there was so much crying. I just was laughing.
Yeah.
Because what else are you going to do?
Yeah.
Cry with them?
Yeah.
That's the only other option.
Well, it's almost like you can't help but laugh, because you're like, is this actually happening? You're like, this feels like not real. It's so ridiculous.
It is so ridiculous.
So that's why it's funny.
And I have to say, like, I don't know how you do it. Like, how do you, and I know you're working on this because you've said this to me, but how do you stay so patient with the kids?
I'm so thankful you say that, because
No.
I think that I'm not at all.
I know you think you're not.
Oh my goodness.
But like, if I was like a stay-at-home dad, and I'm
kind of
that,
are now. But
yeah, but I still have work.
Yeah.
That I'm doing, and like I have that excuse to just be like, go ask your mother.
Yeah.
Not because I'm a terrible dad, but because like I'm literally clocked into work.
I tell them that too. I'm like, don't bother daddy.
Right. They still do.
They always
Can you
do.
take this Lego piece apart?
Or I'll hear them ask you something that I already said no to.
That's my favorite. That is my favorite.
But yeah, no, how do I stay so patient? So just to get it out there, I don't think I stay very patient. I'm working on that. But I guess it looks as if I do.
But how do you work on it?
So
That's what I want to know.
Well, first of all, I'm very aware of it because I feel like my parents were really patient with me. And also, I really like it and need people to be patient with me. So that's a big part of it, too. Like, I'm very aware of that because, I don't know, maybe I am a sensitive person. So when I can tell when someone feels annoyed with me. So I'm aware of that. But I think it's just like a matter of I tell myself every time, like, the world is ending, or at least you think it is from the way people are crying. And I'm just like, okay, like I can't freak out right now.
Yeah.
Like, because it probably is nothing. So I always go into the situation like, what happened? Like, and I think I use those words too. I'm like, what's going on? Because it's probably something stupid.
Yeah.
So I just have to like figure out what's going on and then stay calm. And then because yeah, I'm angry inside pretty much right away. Cause I'm like, I can't believe this is happening. Like again, after like, I just broke up another one like 4 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, okay, stay calm, find out what happened, try to teach them how to act like civilized people in this situation.
It's so hard because they just, it is one fight after another sometimes. Yeah. And it's if it's one person's fault, it's the next kid's fault the next time and another kid's fault the next time. Sometimes some kids just have a long track record in one day and it's just all their fault.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where it gets difficult for me.
Yeah.
Because some kids have a track record in our house and it's hard not to rush into the room, see the crying kid and immediately be like, what'd you do?
Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh.
When they might not have done it that time.
Right.
You know, and I've gotten a little better at not just kind of like coming in and being like, all right, time to lay down the law.
Yeah.
But it's hard. And maybe that's it. Maybe like having like almost like a meditative thing. Like you know how like meditation, there's like a seance or like something that you repeat.
Well, it's really
over and over again.
So,
but like coming into a room and saying like, what's going on is such a good thing because then you're not like coming into a room being like, and you have a structure to what you're going to say when you come into the room.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to say this, even though I have exactly knowledge of what just went down.
Right.
I'm going to, leave it open for an investigation.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's it. I like that word, structure. I think it's like you wipe the slate clean, right? Because you're like, what happened? I need to know. And then just like, having like almost a tradition to what you say so that you're not reacting as well, but responding instead.
Yeah.
And just responding with what you always respond with and try to figure out what's happening and help them to do the same. But yeah. So that's how I do it, and trying to get better at like not being so annoyed though at the same time, like trying to actually be genuine when I am trying to teach them because that's usually where I fail. Because they always say with kids you're not supposed to show like all the emotion because that's all they're focusing on now. Is your emotion, and they don't hear your words anymore. They're just focusing on your emotion. So like when you're able to be very level-headed and like speak to them not in anger, they're able to hear you better. But I struggle with like maybe I'm able to show that I'm not angry, but like they can definitely tell I'm annoyed.
Oh, for
I'm
sure.
Frustrated.
For sure.
So
for sure.
So I'm trying to get better
second guess
at that.
myself. Not even second guess myself, but like see that in myself all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. And it's so frustrating.
It's frustrating because you want them to get it. You're like, why don't you get it? That's the frustrating part. Like, I feel like I could do all of that if I knew that they were sorry or I knew that they got it.
Right.
But like, I feel like they
or
do.
Or
they do
desired.
Get it. That's it. Yeah. They do get it, but they don't care. That's what's frustrating. Okay. So that was wrong. What I said was wrong. I know if I actually think they don't get it, I'm able to be more patient. But when I know that they get it, but they just don't care, then I'm like, trying not to lose my top.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. And It's funny, as you were like talking about that, all I could think of is like our politicians and how no, listen, like how they act, and then we wonder why we act in certain ways towards each other when it comes to politics. Well, like, all you have to do is just look at Congress and like the way that they're backstabbing, biting, and just kind of kicking and throwing sand in each other's faces like a playground, like children.
That's a really good example.
And then we wonder why we look at our politicians to see how we should talk about politics. Like if I think like there's a lot of other factors here, obviously, but like you think back to when like the politicians were a little more cordial with each other. You had the differences of opinions, but everybody loved America. And they said each side loved America more.
Yeah.
And had just a different vantage point at which they were looking at how to improve America.
Right.
We don't totally have that nowadays, and it's so violent.
Yeah.
And there's just so much fighting, and that's the only a lot of it is very just self-interested, like in just it's a great way to get attention to yourself so that you can be like, "Did you see what the Democrats did?
Yeah.
Donate to my campaign."
Yeah.
And it's on both sides, Did you see what those crazy conservatives are doing?
Yeah.
Donate to my campaign.
I will stop them. Donate to me.
I'll stop them. I'll put an end to this. No, you won't.
Yeah.
No, you won't.
You just want our money.
Exactly. But I totally thought of like kids in that, and like, yeah, they're going to look at the way that we react to a situation and be like, oh, that's how you react to a situation.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that has really scared me / motivated me to get better in my reactions towards things is when I see similar situations pop up and my kids react like me.
Yeah. And you're like, oh crap.
Yeah. Yeah.
I taught them that.
Yeah. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
That's terrifying. And we're pretty good around our kids. We're not like cursing around our kids. We're trying to really watch ourselves to a certain extent, as much as we can. Even in our interactions with each other when they're around, so that we can prevent some of those things from popping up. But like, it's hard.
Well, I feel like we're
It's
pretty
so
good
hard.
in general with that. Like, we are pretty much the same people, like out with other people as we are with our kids.
Yeah, we're not that different.
So it's not like we're
not
that different. It's just a matter of like, you actually you're not challenged the same way out in public than you are at home with your kids. Like, you don't go out in public, well, at least not usually, and at the grocery store, like, have like a fight breakout, like with other people. So like, it's actually the most tense in your house because that's where the most like tension is, because you're so close to each other, especially your
in proximity, closeness, you're close relationally.
Yeah.
And like, there is something about the house that like brings out a side of our kids that's just insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they'll go crazy too at other people's houses, especially if there's kids there. They'll have fun and go crazy. I don't know. Maybe we're not able to detach ourselves when we're at home. Like, we're at someone else's house, we're paying attention to our friends and talking, and we're just not really worried about what they're doing.
Right.
When crying happens, then we're like, okay, let's go figure out what's wrong. But when we're like home, they're kind of our attention.
Yeah.
And we're hyper focused, maybe. Maybe.
Well, I think that you're just more comfortable. They're just more comfortable at home. Like, it's a good thing, even though it's torturous for us. Like, they're just more comfortable to do whatever.
Well, it's so
and to test the boundaries, just like we are in our closest relationships, right?
No water.
No, I'm good.
You're right. No, it's so true though. Like, because my parents always used to say that I was like so good when I would be at other people's houses.
Yeah.
They would be like, "Who is this? Who is this person that's so good?"
Yeah.
Like, can we have that?
He was so good.
Yeah. Can we have that one and bring him home? Like,
yeah.
But there was a difference. Like, when I knew I needed to be on my best behavior because someone else is watching me, and like I wanted to make a good impression, or I don't even know what I thought at that age. Probably didn't care about
Yeah.
impressions, but like, yeah, there's such a difference. There's such a private public
Yeah.
difference with kids.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what that stems from though.
I
And
don't
it
know.
bothers me.
I don't know.
Because like, I want to bring some of that environment home. Like, what am I doing differently that's causing them to
No, I like
act or feel differently out as
I see.
opposed to
Yeah.
just being at home? You know?
I think they're just really comfortable at home. I really do think that's
Just
what
got to
it
make
is.
them really uncomfortable then.
No, it's good. It's good in that they're so comfortable that hopefully they'll be comfortable for us to teach them how to behave better. The
Yeah.
better behaved they are at home, the even better they'll behave outside of the home. Or at least that's my wish dream,
Yeah. Wish dream.
my hope.
My wish dream.
Yeah. I think that's interesting though, because I think that's how we are with our closest friends and relatives and relationships. So like
How?
I think of, so I have some friends that like I just know and like you're with them sometimes. And then I have like my really close, I guess I don't really have a lot of close friends, but I have one really close friend.
Right.
And like with her, like I don't filter myself, or I don't like, I'm not aware necessarily of like maybe
How
things
you're
I shouldn't
acting or-
say or
Yeah,
things
yeah.
I shouldn't do. Like I'm just like, she knows me.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, whatever.
It's
Like
so
if,
much more
if I
comfortable
mess,
and-
if I like, maybe I will go, I mean, I don't think I've done this, but maybe I will go out of bounds and say something like, I can always be like, oh wait, I'm sorry. I probably shouldn't have said that or whatever, you
Yeah.
know? I don't
Right.
even think that's ever happened, but like, I feel like I don't have to, I'm not watching myself closely
Mm.
because I'm so comfortable. So maybe that's how it is with the kids. And they're less practiced too. So they're still like learning how to just fight with each other, you know?
Yeah.
They haven't learned how to fight well yet. Like but for real, like as you get older, if you're
Yeah.
growing and maturing, you should learn how to argue and disagree with other
Better.
people
Yeah.
without hitting them. You know, like
True.
we don't hit other adults when we disagree with them.
Gosh,
like,
I wish we could.
and hopefully we're not screaming at them either. Hopefully we're just like
Yeah.
talking in regular
We
voices.
should bring back duels. I mean,
No.
bring back like those old pistols. They'll be the old crappy pistols, and we just have duels.
That was so stupid.
You know, you get in a Twitter beef, like you
Oh
duel it out,
my goodness.
and may the best man live.
This is an awful idea.
I think it's great. I think it's
If
great.
you're stupid enough to duel, I guess so. I guess you might die, so
Oh, man, did you ever see did I ever show you like the pictures of the Germans? And this was mostly like pre World War II, and maybe even pre World War One. But there was like this sect of more elite type German people that, like, it was a men mostly that dueled, and it was like a status thing to have like dueling scars. So they duel with swords.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not with pistols. They dueled with swords, and like, man, the pictures, if you look this up online, like they would have these scars like down their face, and it was like a status thing. Like this person had dueled.
Like what kind of
like-
swords? Like swords that kill you?
What's that?
Swords that like can kill you or just like really hurt
don't-
you?
I-
Like I'm confused. Like would people die afterwards? Like would you
I'm sure
fight to the death?
No, I don't
Like-
think you were trying to. I don't think you were trying to kill each other. I think you were trying to like win, like whatever you call that, like parry and I don't know all the fencing terms, but like I think you were trying to like win and like, you know,
Okay. Like the person would
have this-
surrender or something.
yeah, like that type of thing. I don't know all these terms, but like it's just fascinating that like that was common practice, and some guys would skip a step and they would just give themselves these scars on their face.
What is wrong with these people?
Well, I mean, these people
They
eventually
wanted to
became.
look good to the girls, I guess.
Well-
Look at this scar. I did it to myself.
Well, they wouldn't say that. They would say they did it in a duel. But it was like a status symbol. It was like the thing that made you tough, that made you like, oh man, he engaged in a duel.
I can see that. I mean,
duels have been around for
I don't know how long.
A millennia.
Yeah.
Just that's how you would resolve conflicts. You put two rulers up against each other. I mean, David and Goliath.
Yeah.
It's as old as David and Goliath, or older. And it's fascinating though that was a thing.
So I wonder what is that in us? Like we have to prove that we are like better than another person, I guess. Because we still do that today, just not like physically, right? Like you talked about politicians and
even like
we still like want to destroy the other person. Maybe we're not doing it with guns and swords now, but we're doing it with like words and
yeah. I mean, like even on Twitter, like I'm sorry, like you don't have to respond to anybody.
Yeah.
Like there's this weird thing where, and I get it, like if you're like a high status sort of political commentator and like people are sort of attacking you on a certain subject, a lot of times like they'll be like, I have to respond, to just like put out something saying like, hey, this is false. Like, hey, I'm sorry. Hey, this is the context, and I get that to a certain extent, but I know people that just don't care.
Yeah.
And you know what? Those people just move along.
Yeah.
Like if you just ignore it,
it eventually
and just
goes away.
about your business, it goes away.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're attached to companies, if you're attached to businesses and organizations, like there can be repercussions.
Oh, yeah.
And like, so people like out there like cancel culture is not real. It's freaking real.
Yeah.
It is completely real. People have lost their jobs. You can't get any more real than that. For like a person to like be like, wow, I said the wrong thing and now I can't support my family.
Right. That's awful. Yeah.
What? And the fact that like we do that, why? Like I know it's a power thing. I can answer all the questions to why. People hate their lives, so they hate your life if it looks a little better. So any chance that they get, they're going to dogpile on you just to make your life a living hell because theirs is.
Yeah.
Like it always stems from hurt. Hurt people hurt people. It's what it is. It's what it is. But yeah, it's still strange. It's still strange that's a thing in 2021.
Yeah.
Like
just morphed into a different.
Well, it's just like we're this evolved people. It's like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Like it was so much better in the 90s.
Right.
So much. I lived through it. I can attest the 90s were great.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I feel like I shouldn't speak because I don't know this much about history in general, but it does seem like
I'll help you out.
Okay, thank you. That each like civilization, right? They like get to this like peak and then they devolve. And like I don't know what got them to the peak, but
it's
like
true.
You do see that when people are valued, and now I'm not saying this gets you to the peak because there's lots of like civilizations who were like brutal and they were powerful for a time, not because they were doing anything good, but like it does seem like when you value human life and you value each other and you're for justice and things like that, you do well. But then like as soon as you start to like lose some of those,
start changing the definitions of what justice is.
Right. Then those things go downhill.
Or what hate is, or what, all of these things that we're sort of dealing with right now. What gender is.
Yeah.
What, I mean, you can go down the list. There's so many things that, we've literally gone through the looking glass.
Yeah.
And we're in Wonderland right now.
Yeah. Like we're no longer going uphill. We're unraveling like truth now. And like we're going downhill.
Yeah. A biological male can be a woman. No. Like, but if you get enough people to say, okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to mean that they agree or believe you.
Right. They're just letting
you go along. As long as enough people say
story.
Okay, because they don't want to be hateful or be labeled a bigot or, they just want to go to their job and go
Yeah.
home and be with their family.
Yeah.
They don't need your BS
Yeah.
that you're gonna give if they're just like, no, that's stupid.
Yeah.
And the sad part is,
Or
if
not
you-
even that stupid. Like that's just doesn't work. Like it doesn't work. It's not true.
It doesn't work biologically. There are a lot of things that you could go down a different rabbit hole, talking about that. But like, yeah, I mean, like just take the trans thing for a second. Like, it's a big problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big problem. There's a lot of factors to it. Like, there are for sure people that believe that they're the opposite gender.
Mm-hmm.
It's a gender dysphoria.
Mhm.
It sounds bad, but that's literally just the state of mind that people are in where they think they were born into the wrong body.
Mm-hmm. It's
It's a real thing. I do not doubt that it's a real thing. I do not, it's a real thing. But like where I have problems is where it starts infringing on other people. That's always where you should draw lines.
Or
is
if you're now informing, like if you're now informing the world on truth for like an illness.
Exactly.
Like,
but that's a
or-
line. If you're going on to like a personal line where you're starting to teach like children about being trans.
Yeah.
When they're we already know scientifically that they're very impressionable at an
Mhm.
early age.
Mm-hmm.
So these children are like, I do like playing with Barbies.
Yeah.
I do like dressing up in heels. I dressed up in heels.
Mm-hmm.
And I love being a man.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
thing you do.
Right.
You're experimenting and you're learning the world through experimentation.
And there's nothing wrong with those things for
No.
little boys.
No.
Like let them play.
Exactly.
But don't
Exactly.
tell them they're a different gender now. Like
Well, and this is an issue. So a lot of the rhetoric is also influencing parents in their parenting. And like you could say that is, again, crossing another line where it's becoming where it's not just a personal choice.
Yeah.
We're in America, man. You have the freedom and the choice to do what you want.
Right.
When you're of age, when
Mhm.
you're 18, if you want to transition to be a woman, if you're
Mhm.
a man, if you want to transition to be a man, if you're a woman, you're free to do that.
Right.
But it's when it starts to cross personal boundaries where you're trying to influence children and when you're trying to influence science
Mm-hmm.
and when you're trying to influence the lives of like female athletes, like that's the thing that a lot of people are pushing back on, but they're not pushing back hard enough.
Yeah.
Like this year in the Olympics, I have zero desire to watch the Olympics. One, because the Olympics kind of suck for the most part. But like also, I'm not going to watch something where an Olympic committee has actually allowed a transgender woman, a biological male, to compete in women's weightlifting.
I don't know how that the other women think that's fair.
It's not. This person is 43 years old, well beyond the age that any active professional like weightlifter
yeah.
is. How is she able to do that?
Yeah.
She's not.
yeah.
She's only able to do that because biologically she is still a male.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And she is able to lift more than all of the other women in her division.
Yeah.
We got to stop this.
Yeah.
We have to stop the lines.
Yeah.
What is good for you is your own. When you start imposing that, and it is an imposition type thing. Like there's this narrative going around, and I've heard it from friends, and I know family members believe in it, and it's very disheartening when I hear it because you think like we live in the information age.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is we also live in the hyperinflated narrative age.
Yeah.
So like information has the backing of facts.
Mhm.
Narrative can be whatever you want it to be.
Right.
A fictional novel is a narrative.
Mhm.
And now we're in this point of time where this narrative that transgenders are being killed, because of the hate that is being spread by not accepting them as the gender that they feel that they are. It's literally killing them. Have you ever heard of a transgender person dying?
No.
I've never heard of a transgender person dying.
I know that they're in a higher rank for suicide.
Yes, they kill themselves at a exponential rate above even homosexuals at the percentage that people are trans, which is a very low percentage of people statistically. It's less than 2% of people are transgender, less than 1%, really, if I'm going to get into it. But now that number is growing because of some of the impositions of, in the education system and teaching about transgenderism. And it's a fad now. You get love online, you get love in school,
until you decide not to. And then you get hate.
And this was going to be my next point. No, you don't get even hate. See, this is where a lot of people are killing themselves. And this is a terrible thing to talk about, but it should be talked about. Once you decide to detransition, and there you can find message boards, you can find, I'm sure, Reddit groups and videos out there from people that are detransitioning. Now, these videos are suppressed and these forums are suppressed on the websites because people aren't supposed to hear from these people, which is freaky, right?
Yeah.
That's creepy, right? But there's a large portion of people that regret their decision, especially when it was done early in life, to transition to the opposite gender. And then a lot of them, what they say statistically is that the predominance of children or adolescents that believe that they are trans, if allowed to go through puberty, will usually be gay later in life. But once you transition, you can't reverse that. I mean, just literally put yourself in that person's shoes.
No, that's awful.
It's horrific. Can you imagine, like, you just think you're, like, if allowed, you would have just been gay and you wouldn't have had to have surgeries and hormone treatments and literally change the entire structure of your body, your anatomy, your reproductive functions, all of that, your ability to feel sexually. These people will never experience, I mean, if we're just going to really get into it, they're never going to experience sexual pleasure.
Wow.
And this is like I'll try to keep it PG.
I didn't realize that part.
No, they won't. I mean,
awful.
If you really, one book that everybody should look into, or at least if you don't like reading, go listen to some of the interviews with Abigail Schreier. She's a journalist. She's not a scientist. If you want to go look at scientific studies, you can look at Deborah So. She actually has more scientific books on some of the issues surrounding the trans movement and how it's really affecting homosexuals. How it's really affecting people that would just be gay. And it's such a crazy issue. I mean, like but again, put the best thing to do, and this is something that a trans person or a LGBTQ plus person will tell you is put yourself in our shoes. Okay, put yourself in the shoes of a person that desires to detransition or has detransitioned. No one will. All the people that was giving them praise when they transitioned, they say they disappear. They'll literally unfollow them. They'll call them names. Some will attack because they're making this decision. Which makes it it makes it a social dynamic and not an actual physical and emotional and I'm trying to like biological factor. Like it makes it all social. And that's where we need to fight back. And I really mean fight back. Like stand for these people. So that they can make the right decisions. And I mean stand for the people that maybe will one day transition. But make sure that they know all the facts. Like people are going into these offices and starting to receive, without parental consent, hormone treatments.
That is just...
And the doctors, think about this, the doctors have to give the hormone treatments.
Yeah, they're not allowed
They're not allowed to say, do you understand?
Like, that seems like abuse.
That's
to
malpractice.
Me. That's like...
That's literally malpractice. Like, if I went in and I was just like, you know what? I don't really like these lungs. I need you to take them out.
Don't tell me.
But there's a law in place where they can't speak out because it's hate speech.
Oh my goodness. Which is
we would call that malpractice.
I can't believe they call that hate speech when it's literally hateful to not tell them that,
to just give a person an understanding.
Here is like what you're getting into. Like, I want you to be fully aware so that you can make like an informed decision. I don't know. I haven't worked it all out in my own brain how I feel about like everything related to this, but like, well, I mean, I've already figured out certain things, but I'm like, we definitely need to, because it is a free country. So like, I don't want to, even though I think we should be free. Okay. So this is what I think. We need to tell people the truth based on science.
Yeah.
And we need to
it's a good place to start.
We need to let people be informed, not fake science, like real science. And so that's important. And then we need to let people make their own decisions. And we need to be free to have our own opinions and free to make our own choices. Yeah, that's how I feel about it. But
that's the issue.
Yeah.
That is the issue. You are free to make your own decisions. But right now, there's a group of people that's allowing you, is influencing the decisions.
Yeah.
That's not freedom.
Right. Freedom, and we're not based on
freedom means that
anymore.
All parties are allowed to have their voices
equally
heard and influence to come from all sides for the person that maybe is making this monumental decision.
Yeah.
And that's what's not being allowed right now.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking. Really. It is. And I've definitely evolved on this issue because you have to.
Yeah.
Like, I've had to think this stuff through. I've had to listen to experts. Like I said, Abigail Schreier is a good one. Deborah So is an amazing listen if you want to go get a little deeper into the science, and it's good. It's good stuff, and it's scary. I'll be honest. It's frightening, the type of stuff that's happening right now, and the way that the loud person in the room, and we all know how that works. I mean, it's just the loudest person usually gets their way.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening right now. And the problem is these loud people are stupid.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
These loud people aren't the scientists.
Yeah.
They are telling the scientists how to report science. Like when you have organizations like STEM, which is like the science kind of organization, it really, they're the front lines of all scientific studies and things like that. And they're kind of trying to frame their science in certain ways to like appease certain voices. You can't be trusted anymore.
No.
Because a person that is, there's so many rational, logical, enlightenment valued people that are out there that don't have like Christianity or faith, to fall back on. Science is so important to them.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to watch like the scientific community sort of kind of falling apart and sort of breaking up and kind of being like, what are we doing here, guys? Like, that's been the most interesting thing with the trans issues, with critical race theory.
Yeah.
Like, it would amaze you how many atheists are like teaming up with like Christian organizations
Oh, wow.
to fight critical race theory.
Wow.
Isn't that fascinating?
That is fascinating.
Because Christians inherently are against critical race theory. Not all, mind you, but they're not Christian. Because the Bible is inherently very against critical race theory and the racist ideas that it propagates. So what's so fascinating is that a lot of these very, like I said, Enlightenment thinking atheists who don't believe in God, don't believe in Christianity, are kind of looking around at where do I find community? Where do I find like-minded people to kind of push back against these ideas that I've studied in my rationalistic mind? And I've looked into, like, James Lindsay is a great example of this. James Lindsay is an intellectual. He's written a lot of books with Peter Boghossian, and who's another atheist. Helen Pluckrose is another person that they partner up with, another atheist. You know, so you have these three atheists kind of pushing back against that stuff, and they're on with all these like Christian people. Wow.
That's kind of, I mean, not cool that we have to, it's not cool that this is happening, but that's cool to see them like partnering for a common cause for the good of people.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's so fascinating. And even like interviews that I've watched with James Lindsay, like, I mean, he's been on the Babylon Bee. And the Babylon Bee is like a satire website that is founded by Christians. You know, they started, now they're more into the political space and they're killing it. But like, they were just making fun of Christians originally. Yeah. Like, it was just a satire site for Christians.
That's funny.
But like, he's been on like the Babylon Bee and doing interviews.
Wow.
You know, and like the Babylon Bee doesn't really know how to like talk to him, because it's like, oh, you don't even believe God exists. Like, we're Christians. That's cool though. I love seeing it though, because conversations are happening. And what's cool about it too is that like Christians suck at PR.
That's true.
Like they're so weird usually, and like the negative examples are the loudest ones. Yeah. So you have like, people think Christian and they think like Joel Osteen, who's like a multimillionaire, who it's like, yeah, there's Christ. And then you have people like the Westboro Baptist Church, which are like, they're protesting outside of like veterans' funerals against homosexuality. Oh yeah. Like, it's just stupid stuff like that, where, cause it's all like an attention-seeking thing to like protest homosexuality.
Yeah. You know, so I just had a thought that I don't think I thought before, but I think one of the reasons why Christians get such a bad name is not only because of the things you just said, but like, because the Bible is against certain things, not people, things, it seems like we are hateful at times. Sure. Because we're like, we'll stand up and say, I don't agree with this. I don't believe in this. And we're not good at being like, we're not against you. We think this is bad for you.
And that's really
we think this is bad for you and your family and the people that you love.
But that's been the most interesting thing, when like James Lindsay will talk about the fact that he's like come and spoken or met with leaders of like big denominations and churches. Wow. Is like, he's like, I disagree with these people on a plethora of issues. Right. You know, James Lindsay would have been considered, he's leaned more conservative in the past years just because of how far the left has gone to the left. Yeah. That he's sort of drifted further right.
Yeah, whether he did or not, he just seems it now.
Well, and a lot of people kind of find themselves in this politically homeless realm. Yeah. But like, he'll talk about the fact that like these Christians just invite him in. Yeah. They treat him like a normal person. Right. He's like, I engage with them. I have really good conversations about God.
Amen.
I don't even believe in God. Yeah. He's like, but I'll have the Christians. What he said is like, these Christians want to have these types of conversations, whereas like my leftist friends won't engage with me on certain topics. Like they literally will just shut the conversation down. Oh, wow. Where he's like, these Christians will actually be like, yeah, we disagree, but like,
we'll talk about it.
I'm glad you're here.
Yeah.
we can talk while you're here. Yeah. Oh, you don't believe in God? Tell me about that.
Yeah.
Like, that's like the best PR for Christianity
That's cool.
that you're ever going to get.
Right.
And that, I honestly believe that's the majority of Christians, like real saved Bible reading, believing Christians, is that like, we'll talk to anybody.
Right.
There's so much less racism and bigotry and whatever other label that you want to throw on a Christian than is actually there.
Right.
Like, we're very accepting people, but like you said, not of maybe certain actions.
Right.
Especially if you're going to say that you believe in the Bible and want to be a Christian.
Yeah.
That's every religion.
Right.
Hey, you want to be a Muslim? You got to stop eating pork.
Right.
You want to be a Jew? You got to stop this, whatever. You got to follow Shabbat. You got to, that's in every religion. But for some reason, like, Christians get like the hate label for just their religion.
Right. And something tricky that I have found that like our culture does, and maybe they're not trying to do it, it's just the way it happens. But like, they like to label certain like actions as like, that is who you are.
Oh, yeah.
So like, as soon as you say you don't agree with that, you know, that person kind of almost believes that that thing that they do, like if we're going to talk about homosexuality, like that's like that you're saying you hate them. When you're not saying that,
nope.
You're just saying, I just disagree with that practice.
Yep.
But they take that like personally, and I can see how you would take it personally, but it's not meant to be personal.
Yeah. And I mean, even just hearing this in this podcast, like, oh, so I can hear it in your voice. You're saying that you disagree with homosexuality. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You know what though? I have homosexuals in my family.
Right.
I'm friends with homosexuals and I love them.
Yeah.
I love them so much. And you know what? I lie. And I hate that.
Yeah. Right. Same thing.
It's the same thing.
It's an
God literally doesn't have he doesn't have scales when it comes to sin. Every sin is the exact same weight as another sin.
Yep.
So the murderer is the exact same person as the glutton.
And as
the person that eats too much. Yeah. Exactly. So for the Christians that do hate the homosexual, to God that's sin. And he's weighing their sin the same way that he's weighing the homosexual sin.
Yep.
And it's like, but we don't hate the people.
Right.
We don't hate the person.
Yeah.
And you could say, well, I just don't accept you because you won't accept that practice. And that's fine.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And that's kind of the way that a lot of classical liberal people have just had to be with a lot of the leftist ideology that has sort of risen. I'm more conservative just because of my religious background, but like I entertain liberal ideas, like classically liberal ideas on like social issues, and just because I think there's nuance. I think there's things to learn from liberals. I do not learn anything except to defend my own stances when it comes to leftists.
Yeah.
I make a distinction between classically liberal people that come out of the Enlightenment, that come out of some of the ideas that sort of stem from that time period, to the leftists, which are coming from postmodernist ideas that are just seeped in racism.
Yeah.
Like, all you have to do is go read Karl Marx. You have to go read the authors from the Frankfurt School, where postmodernism sort of stemmed from. And there's so much racism that's steeped in the lives of the men and women that were a part of this movement, that honestly was discredited many times by Enlightenment thinkers, but just has been allowed to linger and has just kind of found its way into the culture, has found its way from the universities to the modern culture.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It is crazy. I listened to, I think we bring her up on like almost every one of these podcasts, but Yeonmi Park.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I listened to another interview with her with Lauren Chen.
Okay.
who's just a YouTuber. And it's a short, like 20-minute interview, and they were kind of focusing more on just some of the things that she went with at Columbia University.
Mhm.
And just the fact that she said it was so racist, like blatantly towards white people.
Oh, wow.
And I know I'm not allowed to say this as a white person, but I don't care. Yeah, I'm going to stop there. I want to say more. But like everything, literally every subject that she studied, whether it was economics, whether it was literature, whether it was evolutionary biology, whether it was everything, professors were able to bring back to the colonialism, whiteness, like the woes of whiteness, and
my goodness.
yeah,
in college.
Well, and this is Columbia University, which is left leaning. It always has been, but it was a prestigious institution of learning.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's sort of devolved so much into this postmodernist thinking that is very class-based, now it was class-based, but now they're reframing it because it's more advantageous for them to frame. Like, that's why critical theory is where this all stems from, and that's more class-based. But critical race theory frames it in a different light, where race is the kind of highest identity that you can really frame the world in. And white people are the worst, and they're the ones that are responsible for any problems in Asia, any problems in Africa, things that you're seeing throughout Europe and in the treatment of the Native Americans in America. It's white people are responsible for all of this. Now, we could go into 2-hour conversation about that and just be like, the Native Americans also had slaves. Chinese people still have slaves.
Black people had slaves.
Black people were selling other black people in Africa and still do. They still have slavery. And then we could keep going.
Right.
Native Americans had slaves. And we're killing people savagely and cutting their heads off.
Yeah.
And we could go down this line and do value systems and see who is the worst.
But sorry, go ahead. Finish what you were saying. My question is because this isn't, we know, you and me talking together, we know that that's not true, but it's how do you, it seems so obvious, but how do you show the world, how are you believing this?
Yeah.
How do we were doing better before than we are now with the way we thought about race,
Yeah.
And there's, it's how do you prove it?
You don't.
Except for just asking people to rethink. Rethink this. Does this actually make sense?
But you don't.
What do we have biologically that makes us, worst? And does
we've gone down those roads before, and that's another taboo subject, as it should be. As it should be.
Because it's and even if so, let's just say, even if so, there's something biologically different, even though that's not true. Is that, so we're now going to put people down?
Mm-hmm.
If you're a person, you're a person. Treat them equally. But, and I feel other people who might believe.
I'm a person. My name is Anakin.
I feel if other people who believe in critical race theory, heard that, they would be oh, of course. But yet they wouldn't actually live that way.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? It's this really deceptive kind of thinking where they're we want what's good for people.
Yeah.
But not certain people.
A lot of it is pushing the line as far as you can in order to make maybe more minimal gains. So a lot of times people will say, well, of course, not all white people are racist. Even though that is literally a tenet of critical race theory, is that all white people bear the weight of their racist past, still harbor racism.
Right.
within themselves.
Mhm.
And it's a natural part of who they are as white people.
Yeah.
And you would be like, well, that's kind of racist. But like, if you believe critical race theory, that's what you believe.
Yeah.
And like, even if a person was like, well, I don't believe that part of critical race theory, it's literally
That's what it's based on.
it's literally a tenet. So it literally critical race theory starts to crumble if all white people aren't racist.
Yeah.
You know, so
Oh,
you kind of got to shut people down that start to back off of some of their ideas and be like, well, I don't believe that part.
That's its
you
foundation.
You should.
Yeah.
You know, it's like Christians that don't believe parts of that. I'm like, oh, so you're not a Christian.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that seems harsh, but like, that's our religion.
Right. Right.
And critical race theory is some people's religion.
Yeah.
So if you don't believe certain parts of it, I don't believe any of what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because you're a flake.
Yeah.
I don't want them to believe that, but like, you either believe it or I'm not going to believe anything you're saying.
Right.
And that's the way you should approach most people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, I don't think that you can, I'm trying to think of how to really frame this in like a helpful way. But like, I don't think that you will ever be able to change someone's mind on this stuff.
Right.
At all.
I guess you can influence the other people that they haven't decided yet what they believe.
I think that is the only people that you can persuade. I think the next generations are who you have to fight for.
Yeah. Which is why it's so awful that they're teaching it in school
maybe
now.
if the culture, because a lot of these people that aren't thinking critically, even though they're believing in critical theory, which is hilarious. But they don't allow for rational thought. They don't allow for debate. They don't allow for critical thinking, which you're in charge of. Not it was charged to you, and now you accept it as truth. Most of those people are sheep.
Yeah.
And they'll just go with whatever is hot at that time. And, you know, whatever a good-looking or smart seeming professor told them when they were in college.
Yeah.
The only way that those people might change is if you change the culture.
Yeah.
And the culture moves in a certain way and the sheep will just follow.
Yeah.
We started getting rid of racism in the 90s and people might be like, oh, racism still existed. I know.
It always will.
I know. And it always will.
Yeah.
People that are idiots and hateful bigots will always exist. Welcome to the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Welcome to the world, you naive person. Gosh, open a history book. Son of a gun. Like, seriously, these people. But I don't think you'll ever do it on an individual basis with somebody that already believes these certain things, because built into the ideology it's kind of like Jehovah's Witness. You know, like when you try to argue with the Jehovah's Witness, they know your arguments better than you do.
Yeah.
Like you'll be like, yeah, but what about this? And they'll be like,
we're prepared for that.
Yeah, we already knew you might ask that.
Yeah.
Here's our argument against your question.
Yeah.
They're very good at that. They're very good because they know that those questions are dangerous to their ideology. So their leadership prepares the people to combat this. And it's the same thing with critical race theory. You try to poke holes in the theory and those people will cry racism.
Basically, that's what they do.
Yeah.
You're racist because you are against
I'm sorry,
this.
I can't listen to you because you're white.
Okay, so now you don't have a voice anymore. They just took away your voice.
You're just
Congratulations.
Like, okay, moving along. Like, where do you go from there?
Yeah.
You can't. That conversation is over.
Yeah.
And there's been, and the saddest part to me, and I mentioned this before, that there's no debate. Like, many people have called out some of the critical race theory sort of prominent people, you know, sort of propagating this stuff, and they haven't debated. No one has sat down to actually debate these issues because they just say, you don't really disseminate our arguments well, so you don't understand what I'm saying, so I'm not even going to debate you.
So basically someone has to agree with them to
yeah,
debate with
and
them.
literally these people are saying like, I've read all your books.
Yeah.
I've literally given the best outline for what you believe in its fullness.
Yeah.
Like I've done my homework. I'm really trying to give your theory legs so that we can now debate it. And they're like, no. Because it's a fraud.
Yeah.
It is a scam. It is charlatan.
Yeah, it's definitely makes me upset that we are believing this.
I don't think we are.
Mostly that we're going to start teaching it in schools. That I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. I mean,
we got to fight against that.
Yeah, and I think people are, and I'm hopeful in that. I'm trying to remain hopeful. And I think even in this conversation tonight, like people should remain hopeful that these issues will work themselves out or not. I don't know. Maybe they won't.
I don't know. I mean, being
won't.
hopeful is good, but like I think we should also raise our voices very loud.
Yeah.
That's my opinion, because I'm like, these poor children. Like I'm homeschooling my children for a reason, but I'm like, I don't want our children in this world to like believe that.
Yeah.
Like, this is crazy. And I think it makes me sad for their sake, but also like for all the teachers too, because I don't think all the teachers agree with this either.
Nope.
So like,
Nope.
So now they're being placed in this really, really uncomfortable position where they're being told to like teach something they don't believe or that isn't even true. It's like not even based on truth.
Well, and the thing about divisive ideologies is that the people, like, just look at the cops this year. The cops this year, or in this past year, were hated by a certain group of people because of racial issues and things like that. But also, the cops developed new enemies this year in terms of their adherence to certain lockdown rules and mandates.
Wait, I'm confused.
Where they were like enforcing restaurants to be shut down, where they were forcing gyms to be shut down, and they were coming out and they were enforcing the law, even though there was no law in place. So they were really unconstitutionally acting.
I wonder who was telling them to do that. If they just believed to.
No, the leadership of the state was telling them to do certain things.
Yikes.
And mayors were telling them to do certain things. But they gained a plethora of new enemies on people that maybe would have backed them originally. Maybe would have been,
sad.
Flying the thin blue line and stuff like that. And they've really lost a lot of people. This is the same thing that's going to happen when teachers start teaching critical race theory to just get by. I don't like this, but like, I have a good job. I don't want to lose my job.
Because they have a family too.
But parents who do not like this ideology will hate that teacher.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And this is the problem with divisive ideologies, is that people have to do their jobs within the context of whatever they're doing.
Right.
Wherever these things are popping their heads up in whatever profession it is. And it's going to create more division between actual people, not just divisions.
The theory itself will create divisions.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The theory will impact the lives of people that have to spread it.
Yeah.
And enforce it, and it's gonna divide a lot of people, sadly. I mean, you can just look at the cops, you look at the way that some people view the medical profession nowadays, because like they weren't really helpful during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Like there was never a health plan put out to the American people. Like, eat this, meditate more, exercise, take these vitamins, do this, nothing. It was all big pharma. Yeah. It was all, we have vaccines coming, just wait it out, lock down, just wait. We're making these things that will also make us lots of money.
Be dependent on us.
Yeah. And it's always that way. Sadly.
Yeah, I love it that you say that, because I don't think I actually would have noticed that unless you said it, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I would have noticed that, like, you're right. They actually never gave us a solution.
Nope.
Like, because there
No
are
one.
solutions
Trump
out there.
or Biden.
Yeah, no one gave
This
solutions.
is not a political issue. Yep.
No, like I don't think I would have noticed that unless you pointed it out.
Yeah.
That like they could have been saying like these are things that will help you like be strong if you get sick.
Yeah.
And be like okay.
Yeah. And a lot of people were sheep. And I'm sorry if you're offended by that word, if you know that this is you listening to this, but a lot of people just locked down and waited on the vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. Like, especially if you were in an age group or of a health, you had a health background that really required you to get that vaccine. Good.
Yeah.
I'm pro-vaccine for people that need it.
Yeah.
But for all the people that had to go about their daily life and couldn't afford to lock down or couldn't afford to change their entire lifestyle for that, no aid was given.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people became very distrustful. I mean, you could list a bunch of other factors that went into this too, but of the medical profession, of nurses, of doctors, of, the whole big pharma of all
Which
of
is
these
also a
things.
divisive thing because the nurses and doctors were working their butts off to take care of all these people who did get sick.
And at the beginning, everyone, no matter your political or social or cultural ideologies, were like very pro doctor, very pro nurse, ER, professionals, because they were just like, help everyone you can. Do whatever you can to help everyone you can. And man, it turned quick when you see like, I mean, you can point to a lot of things. I don't want to like rag on any professional because I still respect nurses. I still respect doctors. I don't respect the leadership at the top of these. It's like STEM, going back to the scientific community. Like I don't respect STEM anymore because they've already bent the knee on certain issues that are 100% scientific.
Yeah.
Not difficult for the average person that's not a scientist to see.
Yeah.
And you start changing for loud people.
Yeah.
Now I can't trust you.
Yeah.
And it's the same way for the medical people. You can't trust the World Health Organization because they don't even acknowledge Taiwan as a country. Like they wouldn't even say it because they're so in bed with China. And China's like, Taiwan's not a country.
Wow.
We don't believe in Taiwan because they should be a part of mainland China.
Wow.
And you see stuff like that and you're like, oh, now I can't respect them. Okay, how about the CDC? And the CDC has been pretty neutral throughout the whole pandemic, but even they have sort of flip-flop on a lot of things when it comes to masks, when it comes to vaccine efficacy, and they're kind of all over the place and at the whims of a lot of politics and politicians.
Right.
And that's not the medical field.
No.
The medical field needs to be trusted.
Right. And it's like, it's okay for like the medical field or for science to change because sometimes you do find out new things and you have to change and because you found out something new that makes more sense.
Yeah.
But not when you're, following a political agenda.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I just don't want these things to be divisive. I don't want the ideologies, like I want to fight back against those things so that they don't trickle down to the average person that doesn't really have a say or ability to fight back because of their livelihood being in jeopardy, because of whatever the case may be. Like I want to stop it before it gets to these people that now a portion of the population is going to hate these people because they're spreading this information that you disagree with. And it's like, this information shouldn't have even existed.
Right.
Because it is divisive as a tenet. Like critical race theory is divisive as a tenet. White people are bad. What? Like even that statement is so divisive.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
There's not even a debate. And you could be like, yeah, but white people are bad. Okay. It's still divisive. Literally just all you have to do is break down that statement.
Yeah.
What do you mean by bad? All you have to do is ask one more question.
Right.
And now we're in a full-fledged debate that could last for hours and hours and hours on what do you mean by bad?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
you know? So yeah, we could go around and around and around with some of this stuff, but like I just want to nip it in the butt and just have truth out there as much as possible so as to not have this division.
Yes.
This division only exists because we allow divisive ideologies to rise up. And that's where you have to kind of stand and fight. You don't be like the politicians that we talked about in the beginning that like fight each other.
Right.
I think of the verse, like the Bible verse that talks about, you know, your fight is not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers in the spiritual realm. Now that's a very spiritual verse. They're talking about sort of the spiritual forces that are at war in the background of this flesh life that we are living. But you could really unpack that out to culture and just say like, our fight is not against Republicans and Democrats.
Right.
Our fight is against certain ideologies that are at war in the ether. Yeah. That are at war in the minds and the hearts and the of people.
Right.
That's what we're fighting. And that's where our focus should be. We need to stop attacking each other.
Right.
We need to stop especially like when someone just tries to shut you down when you're trying to have a conversation with them, just move on.
Yeah.
Don't attack them. Don't say, God, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
Like, no, just move on.
Right. Because that's not even worth
It's not worth your time. No. Find another person that you can talk to about these things.
Right.
Find another spot that you can expose things or present truth, or there are other ways. There are other ways to fight this fight. So
that's really the way to go, is to not be quiet about it, but talk about it, because like you said, you want to stop it now. If enough people realize that like they all agree that this is not good, it's not good for people, then I think it will stop. Yeah. I think people will be like, oh yeah, okay, well maybe this isn't a good idea. Maybe we shouldn't be all believing and teaching this idea that is going to hurt us.
Yeah.
And our children and future generations, like, but yeah, not fighting against the people themselves, but the idea.
Fight the idea. Yeah. Fight the idea. And like a lot of people have said before me, bad speech should always be attacked with better speech. Like that is the way. If you don't believe in something like an idea, fight it with a better idea.
That's a good point.
That's one thing I never hear in like presidential debates is like a better idea.
Right.
Like someone will say something and you're like, well, that's dumb. Give me what you would do.
Right.
That's how I know if I should vote for you. But you don't get that anymore because it's more nuanced. It's easier to attack.
Right.
It's easier to attack. It's more clippable. It's more, you'll get a news article about it tomorrow if you attack. And it's not helpful. Point. It's not helpful. But anyways, we got to wrap this up. Thanks everybody for listening to another episode of Just Breathing with Laud Lungs. Before you go, YouTube subscribers or non-subscribers, make sure you like this, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Listeners, audio listeners, we love you. Make sure you subscribe wherever you're listening. Follow us on Spotify. Share this if you desire to. That would be nice. And we will catch you on the next episode. Just Breathing Home Edition on Mondays. Just Breathing with Laud Lungs on Fridays. Love you all. Goodbye.